I'm here with Russell Starr. Speaking of TradFi, anyone doesn't know what that means, that's traditional finance. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? The intersection of sort of crypto and TradFi. So crypto markets have been up, but obviously, this is in the last 6 weeks or so, but it's obviously been a terrible 2022. So what significance do you place on this bear market?
Look, it's pretty funny when you sort of go and look back at the history of what people were saying regarding crypto. Crypto was the millennials' version of gold. It was safe haven. It was an alternative currency. Now all of a sudden you get a risk off trade, and all of a sudden Bitcoin is no longer a store of value or an alternative to gold. It's a risk asset. My personal view is that a lot of what's going on has to do with politics. It has to do with what's going on in the U.S. If you think about it just logically, why on earth would they allow a futures ETF and not a spot ETF? And really, truly, if you want to get down to the nuts and bolts of it, it has to do with protection of the U.S. dollar and the demise, and you're watching it daily, of inflation eroding the value of the U.S. dollar. And so I think it's only a matter of time before the world starts recognizing once again that these fiat currencies are doomed to failure. This whole monetary experiment, just so everybody knows, I have a master's in economics. I started my PhD in economics. Literally, the demise of fiat currencies is only a matter of time. People in the US, I talk to them all the time and I'm like, how are you doing? How do you feel about your US dollars? And they're like, I feel great. I'm making 2%, 5% on whatever I've invested in. And I'm like, yeah, but if you're not making more than 8, 9, 10, 15%, you're actually losing money because of inflation. And they don't really understand that concept. And so here we have this whole new ecosystem, which has been under pressure. Let's be blunt. But if you look at it over a 3-year period, it's still one of the top performing assets. So what are you doing? Are you investing to trade on a daily basis into a meme stock, or are you trying to protect your entire portfolio and go long probably the single biggest and most powerful opportunity to invest in any sort of ecosystem since the internet? And my dollars.
Right. So I just wanted to jump in because you mentioned inflation. And I'm very interested in inflation as we all are. I was like Wikipedia, Paul Volcker yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, how high do we think these interest rates are going to go? We have seen the highest inflation numbers in decades. So that's also my question in terms of the crypto market. How correlated is the cryptocurrency market to broader macroeconomic forces?
Well, right now, it's theoretically quite correlated to risk assets and the risk on, risk off trade. And so you'll see Bitcoin, go up 1,000 or down 1,000, whether or not people view inflation as dovish or hawkish, really, theoretically. My personal view is that the U.S. has entered into a recession. The economic data support it. It's hilarious. They're now trying to change the definition of a recession to try to not admit that they're in a recession, which I think is just a joke. People have to be smart enough to see through that. And so as the US gets into a recession, you're also talking about the biggest debtor in the world. As interest rates go higher, they're the single worst off party in terms of having to meet that debt obligation with higher interest rates. So my view is that you're looking at the market starting to trade into a dovish, more risk on trade, and you're going to see Bitcoin resume its upward trajectory into the mid 30s to mid 40s, probably by the end of the year. And you're going to see the Fed have to retrace and start reducing interest rates. So it's a really fascinating time to actually be an investor, because all of these signs have been there, and yet people just don't want to pay attention to them. I think for a decade, they were so used to making so much money on just investing in Facebook or Tesla, they've forgotten about just simple economic theory. And simple economic theory right now says inflation is out of control, and the Fed's in a very difficult position and has raised rates as much as they can, but has now put the U.S. into a recession.
Okay, look, we only got about 30 seconds for the break, but BlackRock, they just made a couple big moves. This has to signify the beginning of a significant move of institutional investment into the space, right?
Look, if you were to look at what we're doing, we're seeing it daily. We've never had net outflows on any of our products. And we're just dealing with Scandinavia and retail. But when you see the likes of BlackRock, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs creating a crypto desk, this isn't going anywhere. And just what perplexes me is
let's hold that thought, because I know it's going to be brilliant, and I want to make sure we have the time to hear it. So we're going to go to the break.
You got it.